Yeah, I didn't realize that it had y'all waiting. Usually just let y'all join. I saw a couple of people waiting. I think they left. All right, so I got a couple of things. Other people join, they'll just have to watch the recording for the earlier part. But I'm just going to run through some quick setups that I've actually taken part in the past. And as you can see, I have it backed up at about, this is like January, right? I just want to capture some of these amazing moves that we've been seeing. That's what I was worried about. Okay. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. I want to be able to answer any questions that you might have with the TTM or anything in particular. Just throw them at me, and I will try to answer them to the best of my abilities. But I really want to capture, the essence of this TTM, and so I have January pulled up because there was a lot of good examples, because we were in an amazing bull rally, and we potentially could see another rally before a puke if that does happen. I'm not saying that it will happen. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I'm not biased as of right now. um, that's not what's important. We just want to trade the charts, and of course use our common sense to navigate us. But I'm just following the squeezes, and I'm looking at the charts, and I'm playing these levels. That's it. I wish the best for everyone, but I am not going to let my bias direct me, okay, if that makes any sense. So beginning here with Tesla, we can see we have the hourly squeeze pulled up, and I don't have it marked. I got to the point where I can just kind of like visually see these things. But as you can see here, what do you have? You have a triangle, right? You have a squeeze, you have a triangle. I'm telling you right now, guys, this thing works best with patterns. Like, it recognizes patterns. I don't know what it is, but when you have a pattern aligned with the squeeze, you tend to get these powerful breakout plays, right? Now, how would you have played this, right? And I've been testing this out. You can call it a gamble. You can call it an educated, calculated decision. Typically, how I would play this squeeze is I would be looking at market settlement. So if we're trending up, then I would be inclined to, go for a call. Now, let's say that we are trending down, then I'm more inclined to go for a put. Now, get to that. Now, you check out the bigger picture here, and you see an even bigger diamond, right? Even bigger triangle, right? how I've tend to play this is, like once we've hit a critical level, critical resistance or a critical support level, I like to play either a bounce or a breakout, right? So here, pretty much would have been gambling if you would have taken this play because you don't know which way it's going. But what I've learned from checking out the squeeze, I like to follow these histogram bars up here. And so you can see here we get the explosion to the upside with the light blue bars. And then, of course, the retract back to the mean, which is like pretty much going back to where, or back to an essential level of where we left from, right? Um, Typically what I've seen is you'll get light blue bars for the explosion, you'll get the dark blue bars, which is retracting to the mean, and then you'll get the red bars, which is a puke, and then you'll get the yellow bars, which is it retracing back to that high that we had, like a retest, so to speak, right? So let's just see if this happens, right? So we get a squeeze, we get an explosion, we get the retract back to the mean, squeeze, squeeze, and then let me just point this out right here. We got a triangle. Aligned with the squeeze. And here is where I would have been looking to play puts, right? Um, just because I've noticed that after you've made a large move and then it's retracting back to the mean and then it's squeezing again, and we have a triangle formation and we're right next to this level of this support level right here that used to be resistance. Typically what happens is it wants to retest that level, and depending on what market settlement was at the time, let's check it out. It's about where market had hit its peak, right? And I want to pull up the weekly chart just so you guys can see. We had pretty much tapped out. We got the 8 bars. Actually, we got about 11 bars. So we pretty much had made that above average squeeze level. Just bring this back. So I actually played puts on this, and I played it intraday and then switched back. So right here you can see if you would have entered in for the puts right here, and you're shooting for the retraction of the mean, we get the red histogram bars to the downside. It pukes overnight. And then you get the yellow bars retracting back to the mean to that higher high, right? And that's what happens a lot of the times. Now, this is back in January. Now, I'm gonna show you guys some of the more recent ones that I've been taking advantage of, and you'll start to see a pattern. You'll start to see what I'm saying when it comes down to the explosion of the blue histogram bars, the retracting back to the mean, squeeze, and then either a puke or a breakthrough level. So let me pull up. Welcome if you're just joining. You see, March. Pull up the. All right, so I'm gonna pull up the 27th, and I love to do Tesla just because it's not just Tesla, but Tesla is it forms these patterns all the time, and it's getting to the point where it's like almost predictable, right? And I love combining that with squeezes because that's our go-to, right? So again, if you weren't here, what we were talking about was how when you get a squeeze, you get the blue histogram bars when it's firing to the upside, and then you get the retraction back to the mean, which is just basically coming back into that range with the dark blue bars. And then you get another squeeze, or if you don't get a squeeze, you'll get the red bars aiming to the downside, and then you get the yellow bars before you get another squeeze, before you get another big move. And we're going to test this theory out quite a bit. I'm going to show you guys this over and over and over again. And it's going to get to the point where you're going to say the same thing and be like, man, this is pretty predictable. This is how we're going to eat off of these plays for this rally to come. So right here, let's see. Let me pull up the 4-hour chart. This is the hourly. We see a squeeze on the hourly. Let's see what it looks like on the 4-hour. So right here, like I say, the squeeze, it works best with patterns. Right here, you can kind of see that we've sold off a bit here on Tesla, and then we kind of came up. Now, I mean, you can kind of call this a bull flag. You can call this, it sort of looks like a bear flag to me. It looks pretty bearish just from the levels, the number of rejections that it's received from these previous levels. And then you get a squeeze on the 1-hour. So I would be more inclined for it to, just based off of the explosion, the loss of momentum, and then we enter a squeeze again. The next thing that usually comes after this, and remember, this setup works for me 80% of the time. 80%, that's not 100, it's 80%. Usually after I've seen the explosion and then the retraction back to the mean and then another squeeze, typically you get the red histogram bars shooting to the downside, unless we're just rallying to the upside, but market wasn't rallying to the upside, right? We've sold off. We've been selling off. We're in a bear market. Typically you get a continuation play. Now let's see what happens. So I'm saying that we're going to get a pute. So this is a Friday. Let's just say, because I had puts over for the weekend. Let's just see what happens. All right, you got that explosion, right? Yes, that's what happened. So check this out. This is a diamond forming. And we did get the, so I've kind of like backed it up a couple. So we did get the pute. This was that Friday weekend. And then you got the puke, right? You got the diamond here. And then the squeeze release. And a lot of times these things are firing without us. Like after hours or before pre-market or whatever. So a lot of times I've had to kind of like test this out and just kind of like swing on my own without signaling, because I don't, want to signal something that I'm uncertain of. But I've just been watching these histogram bars, and we'll get a squeeze, we'll get a rally, we'll get a retraction back to the mean, we'll get a squeeze, and then we'll get the red histogram bars firing to the downside, which lets me know that momentum shifting to the downside. Now, someone was asking me earlier about, well, like, what do you do if it never fires, right? Because here I played this and the squeeze not once ever fired, right? What I look for is I look for a squeeze, and then I look for either a red bar shooting to the downside on a level of like support if it's firing to the downside. Now, if it was a red bar like here, let's say that this would have been intraday, right? A red bar, and then it's firing to the upside. See this light blue histogram bar? I typically wait for that first light blue bar before I would like enter into a call at a level of resistance. And I'll show y'all another example of that in a little while, so you can kind of like understand what I'm saying. But just check this out though, right? Just follow with me here. I mean, you can see how it never fired, but my plan still worked. I got the red histogram bar firing to the downside. I swung puts for the next day because I'm looking for a continuation, right? It just keeps testing this level of support, and I'm just waiting for this squeeze to fire. So what I did was I got in some puts and I waited, and I know that because it's exploded, it retracted to the mean, it's squeezing again, that I probably got an 80% chance that it's going to fire to the downside. It's going to give me these red histogram bars and then the yellow histogram bars to return back to the mean. What happens? Caught this wave, got out, took profit. Yellow histogram bars retracting back to the mean, right? So you could literally play this thing every single day. If you could just play a squeeze, you could just play it to whatever direction it's firing, and then you can play it back off of a bounce, right? I've been doing this for like a month now, guys, like just testing this thing out. It's all that it does. You can literally play the same stock every day, like just between support and resistance levels. But let's see what happens again. So it squeezes, fumbling around, and now here's where it's tricky. When you get the retraction back to the mean and then you squeeze, right? So typically you would think, all right, well, these bars are firing to the upside, right? These histogram bars are light blue. So it would lead you to believe that it's going to rally up, right? We got a triangle. I don't know if you guys can see this bigger picture, but check this out. See that? That's a triangle and a squeeze. Now, how would I play this? Typically, I would play this firing, let's see, momentum to the upside. And then we have the dark histogram bars, which pretty much like tells me that this thing is still trading in the range. So I wouldn't want to, you see this clean squeeze here? I get the red bars and just continuous red bars firing to the downside. That's when I would enter into the squeeze for a swing. When it's giving me mixed signals like this, I don't really want to swing this because it hasn't really made a decision about where it's going. I know it's going to make a big move, but I don't know which way really the squeeze is telling me it's going to fire, if that makes any sense. Let's see, somebody had a question. This was fun. Yeah, I think that's still a good swing. I think that's still a valid swing. I'm gonna check that one out too. Let's just see what happens here on this next day, though, right? Boom, we get a move to the upside. See, that would have been a tricky one if you would have been aiming for it to fire to the downside, which is why I say when you get those mixed signals with those histogram bars, the best thing to do is just wait for the next day, right? We know that it's going to release. Our job is to sit and wait. I mean, that would be your safest bet. But if you're, like me, I'm trying to test out this new theory. I'm trying to test out this new strategy. Um, I was just swinging based off of what these histogram bars were telling me. And I've just been listening a lot to Dr. John Carter and what he's been saying about the squeeze, and it's been steering me just focusing on like one or two, like really like one, nail that, and just move on to the next one. Completely fine. Let's see. All right, so Amazon 4 hour squeeze. I'm really loving these 4 hour squeezes because they give us so much more opportunity, especially if you missed the initial play. Like this morning on, or yesterday morning on Tesla, how I missed that opening punch because I was so focused on something else. Um, we really see where we get a continuation play, like with BA, I'll show you. But here we have a 4 hour squeeze, and it's trying to release here to the upside. Now I'm going to fast forward this to Wednesday. Let's see. Maybe Amazon wasn't the one that broke the resistance. I'm thinking that it broke the resistance. But I see that we got the retest of that 2000 level. Want to say I stated that in our watch list. We did get the squeeze explosion, and it retested the 2000 level. So in a way, I've seen where if you get a squeeze and you're floating below or you're floating above a resistance or support level, it'll give you that initial burst that you kind of need to hit those important levels. Like here, you can see previously that we were in a tight range, and I figured that with the squeeze that we're going to get a retest of that level. I was expecting a break above that level, but stock can only move so much if the market's not behind it. This is probably what happened. Just market wasn't behind the move, and we got the retest, what we were looking for, but we didn't get a break. So if you're looking to play a break above that, then you would have missed out on that one dearly. Let me see. So let's look at. Just BA, just in case anyone missed that one. Boeing is the only, just knowing about Boeing and how investors will not let this ticker fall. Not being biased, but I'm just thinking about where the squeeze is going to fire, right? So we've already had the a lot of cycles going through with the squeeze here. Typically, when you see the red bars, histogram bars, and you have the yellow bars, then you enter a squeeze. The next phase would be the light blue bars, right? Which means it's going to fire to the upside. Let's just fast forward to Tuesday. Because I swung calls, because I'm like, all right, we got the red bars, we got the yellow bars. The next cycle of the squeeze, entering a squeeze is to the upside. And that's what happened. And here you can see when we get a squeeze, a release of the squeeze, we hit an important level of resistance and we get the break. So you could have played this again intraday on that break. Now with the 1 hour squeeze, tend to take profits after it's made this move because it's typically done after that, after you get the 8 to 10 bars. Depending on, market settlement, I may swing calls. I would have rather swung these if this had been a release from a 4 hour squeeze because you tend to get 2 to 3 days of the same momentum. And I believe Boeing still released again, or it kept going. Yeah, so it gapped up, and yeah, this is where I sold. Um, so I mean, honestly, this was a, you know, this wasn't any part of my strategy to hold this thing. I just was really had already made money and was playing with house money just to see the release of the squeeze. But this is how you would have played this thing. I want to show you guys something real quick. All right, so I'm gonna take on demand off, and I'm gonna bring up real time. Kind of want to get you guys looking where we could possibly be going this upcoming week. All right, so we have ES pulled up. Then I'm going to pull up the daily. Not sure if you guys have seen this, but right now we have ES. This is the daily chart. ES is releasing from the daily squeeze. I've been watching this for a while now. So we have the Pew retracting back to the mean. And this is a pattern too. I don't know if you guys can see this, but check this out. This is actually a pattern. This is a diamond here. Right? What's the coincidence that we get a diamond here and then a squeeze after that, right? Like, what's the coincidence? I don't believe in coincidences. And then you get a continuation to the upside, right? So, like I say, I don't have any, I don't have any bias, but I'm just looking at the charts. I'm reading the charts. I'm playing the charts. So, I mean, you do with that what you want. Yeah, something similar to a symmetric triangle is what I'm trying to say. I just say triangle. I mean, because really a symmetric triangle has a definition of its own. So I try to lean away from a symmetric triangle because this really isn't a symmetrical triangle. It really looks like a bear flag. But I think right here, what smart money did was they were trying to trap dumb money. And, because everyone was thinking, and myself included, that we're going to go to the downside. I actually had puts, and I had to sell my puts and get out and catch this rally to recover and then gain some, so there's no coincidence that we got to squeeze after this. And you still have people saying that it's going to go down, and hey, it may, but I would just say keep watching this and just check where market goes. I mean, we could get some news to counteract all of this. You never know, but just trade the charts. Don't trade the news. What other questions you got for me? Just pull up Tesla. So right here, this is the move that we were waiting for all day. This is what I mean by triangle. You see, like this triangle that I'm drawing. This would actually be called a ascending triangle because you have the movement to the upside, and then it comes down and keeps retesting that resistance level, and then it keeps going. So this would be an ascending triangle. There's just so many triangles that, it's just easier to just call it triangle because I'm not some technical analysis philosopher or anything like that. I just use simple diagrams. But this was the move that we're looking for. And Monday, we'll all be looking for a continuation play depending on where market goes. But it was definitely trying to catch that move to 600. So we may see a continuation, or we may just see a retraction back to the mean, which means that we should be in puts. It'll probably try to retest that level again. Who knows? We'll see. And we'll be there to catch it. Check out Microsoft. Yeah, so this is actually a really good, really nice squeeze. I mean, it's a really nice triangle. The only thing here that I would be hesitant is that we really don't have a direction of where it's going. I mean, this could be an ascending triangle, you could argue, on a bigger time frame, bigger scale. But there's really I mean, this thing has just been really moving flat. There's really no indication. The squeeze, if you check out the squeeze, it's not firing anywhere, any direction. So, their guess is about as good as mine. But it's definitely good to be in right now. Hopefully the swings in your favor, because the premiums are going to be lower here than when this thing fires, right? And, just checking out, if I was going to, let's say, make a cheap swing, and I would I'm not going to advise this, but what I've found out is that when you make enough house money and you play some of these cheaper contracts, like, I don't know, $100 contract, $200 contract, just a cheaper contract, just something that you wouldn't probably typically play when you're scalping, to swing, the risk reward works in your favor. Like, if you risk $100 to make $500, the max you can lose is $100, right? But if you get in on the squeeze and it fires in your favor, then you just more than quadrupled your money. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like what I've been doing. I've been hopping into these cheaper contracts and these squeezes and looking for which way it's firing and just hopping in and just riding the wave. And it's been working in my favor. So we'll see what happens. All right. Well, I know it's Good Friday. I'm not going to keep y'all all day. I want you to enjoy your day. If you got any other questions, shoot me a DM. This one will be recorded, so you can go back to it and look at it if you need be. Hope you guys stay safe out there, and I appreciate you joining me. Have a blessed one.